What if the people who were supposed to love you the most became the very people you needed to escape? What if walking away from your family wasn't an act of cruelty, but an act of survival? Most people grow up believing that family is forever. We are taught that blood is thicker than water, that parents always want what's best for their children, and that no matter what happens, family bonds should never be broken. But reality is often much more complicated. Every year, millions of people make a decision that society struggles to understand. They cut off contact with their families completely. No phone calls, no holidays, no visits, no messages, sometimes for years, sometimes forever. To outsiders, this decision can seem cold, selfish, or even heartless. People ask, how could someone abandon their own family? But psychology tells a very different story. Behind almost every family estrangement is a long history that most people never see. A history of emotional wounds, broken trust, repeated betrayals, and years of trying to make impossible relationships work. The truth is that people rarely wake up one morning and suddenly decide to erase their family from their lives. In most cases, the decision comes after years, sometimes decades of emotional pain. Psychologists often describe family estrangement as one of the most psychologically complex decisions a person can make, because it forces individuals to choose between two fundamental human needs: the need for connection and the need for safety. Human beings are biologically wired to seek attachment. From the moment we are born, our brains depend on caregivers for survival. The relationships we have with parents and family members literally shape how our nervous system develops. They influence our self-esteem, our ability to trust, our emotional regulation, and even the way we view ourselves. This is why family rejection hurts so deeply. The people who have the greatest power to nurture us also have the greatest power to wound us. And when those wounds continue into adulthood, something remarkable begins to happen. The brain starts asking a difficult question. Is maintaining this relationship helping me survive, or is it slowly destroying me? One of the biggest misconceptions about people who walk away from their families forever is that they do it because they hate their relatives. In reality, many estranged individuals report the opposite. They often spend years desperately trying to repair relationships before finally giving up. Research consistently shows that family estrangement is rarely an impulsive decision. Instead, it is often the final stage of a long psychological process. First comes confusion, then repeated disappointment, then emotional exhaustion, then acceptance, and finally separation. Think about it this way. Imagine touching a hot stove. The first time you pull your hand away because your brain recognizes danger. Now imagine touching that same stove every day for 20 years while being told that you should tolerate the pain because that's family. Eventually, your brain begins to realize that loyalty should not require self-destruction. This realization can be life-changing. Many people who choose estrangement describe a moment of psychological awakening, a moment when they finally recognize patterns they had normalized for years. Maybe it was constant criticism that slowly eroded their self-worth. Maybe it was emotional manipulation disguised as love. Maybe it was a parent who used guilt as a weapon. Maybe it was ongoing abuse, neglect, or control. Whatever the cause, the realization often arrives suddenly after years of denial. Psychologists call this cognitive restructuring, a process where individuals begin re-evaluating beliefs they once accepted without question. For someone trapped in a toxic family dynamic, this can feel like waking up from a dream. Suddenly, behaviors that once seemed normal start appearing deeply unhealthy. Conversations that once felt ordinary now feel manipulative. Family traditions that once felt comforting now feel emotionally draining. The person begins seeing their reality through a completely different lens. Another important psychological factor behind family estrangement is boundaries. Healthy relationships require boundaries. Boundaries protect emotional well-being. They define what behavior is acceptable and what behavior is not. Yet in many dysfunctional families, boundaries are viewed as threats rather than necessities. When an adult child begins setting limits, toxic relatives may interpret those limits as disrespect, rebellion, or betrayal. Instead of respecting the boundary, they attempt to break it. They pressure, guilt, criticize, or manipulate the individual into returning to old patterns. Over time, this creates an impossible situation. The person learns that maintaining contact requires sacrificing their emotional health, while protecting their emotional health requires creating distance. This is where estrangement often begins, not as an act of revenge but as an act of self-preservation. Interestingly, studies suggest that many estranged individuals experience intense grief even after leaving harmful relationships. This surprises people because they assume separation automatically brings relief. Relief does come, but it often arrives alongside sadness. The grief is not always about losing the family they had. More often, it is about losing the family they wished they had. They mourn birthdays that never felt safe. They mourn childhood experiences they never received. They mourn the loving parent they hoped would eventually appear. In psychology, this is sometimes referred to as ambiguous loss, a form of grief where the person being mourned is still alive, yet the relationship itself has effectively died. This type of loss can be incredibly painful because there is no clear ending, no funeral, no social recognition of the grief. Society understands the death of a loved one. It struggles to understand the death of a relationship. Yet for many estranged individuals, the emotional pain can feel just as profound. What makes the situation even harder is social judgment. Friends, relatives, co-workers, and even strangers often assume reconciliation should always be the goal. They repeat familiar phrases like, "You only get one family," or "Life is too short to hold grudges." While these statements may sound compassionate, they often oversimplify deeply complicated realities. They assume that all family conflicts are misunderstandings rather than patterns. They assume all relationships are repairable, and they ignore an uncomfortable truth. Not every relationship is healthy enough to save. Sometimes healing requires rebuilding a relationship. Other times healing requires leaving it behind